I'm really getting sick of the narratives like men versus women, gay versus straight, trans versus cis, black versus white. We see it over and over and over again, this polarization of people, the dividing of the people. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about something that's a little off topic from the usual LGBT stuff. This video is about the WNBA and some of the controversies that are going on within the league right now, and what we're going to talk about today has to do with what happened over the weekend with the players that came out onto the court wearing a specific t-shirt with a very specific message.
Decades, but something important happened before the game. As you know, the collective bargaining agreement is under discussion right now between the league and their players. And before the game, the players came out without their warm-ups on with shirts that said, "Pay us what you owe us."
I'm a little bit irritated by it, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I really sat and I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, am I wrong about this? Am I being mean? Am I being why do I feel like this whole thing is a virtue signal and that it's kind of a politicized lie that these women are, not being treated fairly enough or something like that? So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate all the support. Okay, so the WNBA, that league began, I believe, in 1997, and it has never turned a profit since its inception, versus the NBA, who has been operating since, I believe, the late 1940s. And then they got very popular starting in the 1980s, and they are now a billion-dollar business. So there is a big difference just in comparison by profitability, obviously, and the WNBA has never turned a profit even once and is being subsidized just to stay afloat, just to stay above head by the NBA through millions and millions and millions of dollars. So this has been a thing. And it wasn't until last year that we started to see a surge in the popularity of the WNBA when Caitlin Clark was introduced, which also, by the way, caused all kinds of controversy among issues about race and people saying that the only reason that the WNBA became popular was because Caitlin Clark is white and just all this nonsense. And I keep seeing it over and over and over again. I'm really getting sick of the narratives like men versus women, gay versus straight, trans versus cis, black versus white. We see it over and over and over again, this polarization of people, the dividing of the people. To me, it almost feels deliberate at this point. And it's so tiring to go over this with people and have them argue with you about the pettiest of things in relation to stuff like that, when it's clear as day that the problem isn't men versus women. The problem isn't a disparity among pay between the NBA and the WNBA. So then when the WNBA players came out in this shirt over the weekend, it really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So let's take a look at that. So here they are. They came out in these shirts that say, "Pay us what you owe us." And I was watching this live. I actually am a WNBA fan. I actually love sports a lot. My wife and I watch a lot of sports. And when I saw this, I could not help but be like, what in the fuck are you guys doing? Who told you to do this? Where did this, who came up with this? Because I think it makes them look a little bit entitled and a little bit selfish on some level, considering what we know about the league and that it's not profitable. And honestly, I feel like it can alienate some of its fans that pay a lot of money to see these games and know that they've still got a long ways to go, and that's okay. But like, what is this really proving to anybody? Is this really proving anything? Is it really doing anything for anybody? And where do they think that this money is going to come from? I mean, what does pay us what you owe us even actually mean here? Because does it mean pay us what the NBA players are being paid? Does it mean pay us a little bit more? Are we talking $10,000, $100,000, $300,000, $1 million? What are we talking about here? What are you negotiating? And it almost implies like they believe or something that there's all this money flowing somewhere that's being kept from them. And that just isn't true. I mean, the data shows that it just isn't true. So I don't get where they're going with this. Is it just one giant virtue signal again? And they're going with the narrative that women's pay is too low. And really, it just doesn't make them look good, and it doesn't make them look very smart for doing this. So I looked it up to find out what was behind this and who told them to wear these shirts. And this is what I found out. The decision for WNBA All Stars to wear the Pay Us What You Owe Us shirts during the 2025 All Star Game warmups was made collectively by the players themselves, organized through the Women's National Basketball Players Association. Early on All Star Saturday morning, over 40 All Star players attended a closed-door meeting led by players reps such as Kelsey Plum and VP of the WNBPA to strategize demonstrations during the game. It was at this meeting that the group unanimously decided to wear the shirts during warm-ups, ensuring the message reached a national audience. Kelsey Plum confirmed that the shirts were their own initiative. The players held a meeting, and that's when they made the decision to wear the shirts. In other words, what they're saying is that the union got together with them, and they collectively decided to wear these shirts at the All-Star Game, making a big political statement. And again, this was met with a lot of backlash once it happened. And, their viewership is still not where it should be to be making millions of dollars. And you're pissing off people that potentially would have watched you play your All-Star game, but then you came out wearing that. I feel like the only people that disagree with me on this so far anyways, and if you disagree with me, that's fine. They're only looking at the fact that the NBA versus WNBA, and they're very focused on the fact that men make a ton of money in the NBA. In fact, I think they're overpaid. To be perfectly honest, to be perfectly frank, I don't think any of these people should be making, millions upon millions upon millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars just bouncing a basketball. That's ridiculous. I do think it's gotten way crazy, just in sports, in general. And I understand that's a business, and I understand that there's a lot of money to be made in sports, especially American sports. Who is the message really being sent to here? Do they think money is going to magically appear? Are they trying to take money from NBA players and take it for their own? They think that's going to happen? Because I don't think that's going to happen. So let's look at a couple Instagram reels that I came across.
Dude, the WNBA just doesn't get it. I saw this, I immediately turned this off. Pay us what you owe us. What exactly do you think you owed? The league has never made a profit. Never. And you're due to lose $50 million this year. What do you think is owed? The girl that could get you to make a profit, you guys bully and beat up as much as you can.
And this is true. He's talking about Caitlin Clark. There is a tremendous amount of jealousy and animosity towards Caitlin Clark that's been going on since she got in the league last year. And they do bully her relentlessly. They push her around on that basketball court too, and I don't think she's very well protected.
I just don't understand what these women are thinking. You know what? Go on strike. Go on strike if you're that unhappy. Go on strike. No one would care. Pay us what you owe us. You're going to make the league go bankrupt. How about the league start turning over some profit before they can actually pay you guys? This was a complete turnoff of the WNBA, at least for me. I may be tripping, but it was a turn off.
So yeah, people are not happy about what they saw. They really weren't. And I can understand that to some degree, especially because to me, this is a really easy thing to figure out regarding what's going on here. And they're making it sound like that they're just holding back on paying them what they're owed, as if there's money somewhere in a treasure trove that someone is hanging on to and holding back or giving away to someone else when they deserve it more. And it's like, no, that's not what's going on. What's going on is that your business is barely working, and it's barely worked for decades. And now all of a sudden, because you've had a few good runs at it, a couple good years, now you're all over this like white on rice, as if it's just going to magically change overnight. And I couldn't disagree more. That's just not how these things work. I don't know if you've ever worked for a business before that wasn't turning good profits, but you don't get a good raise when there's no profitability. And it had nothing to do with my sexual orientation or my gender or anything like that. It is all dollars and cents, folks. I understand that people want this to be profitable and people want to see this league thrive and do better, especially among sports enthusiasts like myself. Of course I want to see them do good. Of course I want to see them get paid more. But I'm not living in a fantasy world either. So I know it's not going to happen right away. I think it will happen. I think it will get better, but it's just not going to happen today, guys. And I want to point out, too, that I don't think this is just about the league not being popular necessarily for all of this time. I think it also probably points to the fact that at some point from the late 90s up till now, this league was severely mismanaged. And, it's like just saying this stuff makes you sexist or something. Like, you're not allowed to be like, hey, men's sports are a lot more popular than women's sports. And a lot of women don't care about watching sports as much as men do. I'm not saying all women. I know that there's a lot of female fans and there's a big female fan base, but we live in a male-dominated world, and we always have. And I do find that we are starting to change those things a lot. We've made great strides. But when we hurry something too much, and it doesn't happen organically and naturally, that's when things are going to be set up to fail.
I am so tired of the WNBA. Did you see what their shirt said? This is what their shirt said. Pay us what you owe us. The WNBA, in the entire history of its existence, has never made a profit. Last year, they lost $40 million. They spent $40 million more dollars than the league made. They require subsidies from the NBA to consistently keep them afloat. The level of entitlement is insane to me. Like, this league can't even stand on its own 2 feet. And the players are saying, give us more money. Again, they need money from the men's league to keep them afloat. So rather than saying, let's become entertaining, let's become better, let's do better, let's draw larger crowds, and then let's actually be profitable for a period of time before we demand more money. Now, let's just demand more money, even though $40 million is being subsidized each year to keep our league afloat. It's entitled, and it's pathetic. I hope the owners of this league do not let these women complain their way into higher salaries. Make them earn their way into higher salaries. How about they actually have a profitable year? How about they do that for a period of 3 to 5 years? Like, if you want to get paid more, how about your league actually make a profit? I know this sounds crazy, but many of us are talking about economics and reality, and they're talking about equity and their feelings.
Bingo. That's exactly what this is about. Yet again, it's about equity and feelings. And we all know that this equity narrative doesn't work. And I don't know why the people over at WNBA are still pushing this narrative and pushing this whole idea that is false. It's based on a false foundation. I don't know. These woke people just will not stop and will not back off of things that we clearly understand to not be entirely true. So now it looks like that y'all are lying about what's really going on here. And I can't tell you enough how much I hate this, because it makes women look stupid. And we all know that women aren't stupid, but why are we? It's like, it's frustrating to watch, because I'm like, this makes women look bad. Makes it look like that they're just greedy and they don't, realize or something that there's not money just floating all over the place. And it's like, are you doing this on purpose? Like, are you setting these girls up to fail? Or, and then the other thing I think about too is, when those women went out there with those shirts on, how many of them really, really wanted to wear those shirts? Or do they feel like the pressure to go along with these various narratives so that they fit in with their peers and they aren't given shit? Like, I wonder about that too, about how many of them actually do understand this for what it is and don't really want to be begging for money when they know that there's no money there to be given. And like I said, I really do want to see them be successful, but I just don't think this is the way to do it. This isn't the avenue to make that happen. It's just one of these things that's going to take time. And yeah, some of these salaries are pretty pathetic. I mean, I think they pay around $60,000 up to maybe $250,000, depending on the player. I mean, that's just that's peanuts in comparison to the NBA. But again, the NBA is $1 billion business and has been for quite some time. And it's just the world that we've lived in. And yes, times are changing a little bit, but slow your freaking roll.
So last night, the WNBA had their All Star game, and many of the players showed up with shirts that say, "Pay us what you owe us." Now, unlike a lot of guys in the manosphere, I actually do follow women's basketball. Though primarily, I'm an LSU Lady Tigers fan and have been my entire life. Which is why I'm still a major defender of Angel Reese. With all that being said, the only thing these women are owed is what they agreed to when they signed their contract. They're owed nothing more and nothing less. And if we're being honest with ourselves, if people on the internet spent as much time actually going to these games and actually supporting women's sports with their wallets, these women would likely be getting paid more as is. However, the WNBA has yet to turn a single profit once. Last year, the WNBA made more money than it ever had before, and it still had to be subsidized by $40 million by the NBA.
That is what just goes to show you how severely financially crippled this organization is.
This means everybody who works for or owns stake in the NBA, whether they're a player, a coach, a water boy, the CEOs, an owner, they're all taking a pay cut from their profits just so the WNBA can exist at all. There's just no way for these women to be paid more until they actually start turning a profit. Now, in theory, they could strike to get more money, but I can guarantee you it's not going to work. In basic economics, Thomas Sowell explains the story of the union leader John L. Lewis. John L. Lewis was a union leader for the coal mining industry between the 1920s and the 1960s. However, many economists say that he is the world's greatest oil salesman because the strikes he led actually pushed people away from coal and into oil. Despite his intentions to get coal miners better pay and better working conditions, by the 1960s, many of these coal mining towns ended up becoming ghost towns, and many of these coal miners were simply out of a job. And keep in mind, there was and still is a massive demand for coal. These companies were actually profitable. The WNBA isn't. So even if these players went on strike to get better pay, it might just end with the WNBA being abolished completely. These players have absolutely no leverage to use when demanding better pay for themselves. They're lucky to even exist and get paid now.
That's the thing, is that it's kind of like thank your lucky stars at the moment, folks, because you probably wouldn't be here otherwise. And I'm not trying to be like a jerk. I don't understand why this is so freaking controversial. Do I think that they will ever be as profitable as the NBA? No, I don't. I not in my lifetime anyways. I don't see that ever getting to that level. And that's because I'm watching and I see it, and I see sports fans and I see how society has been run for the last century. And I just don't see it happening anytime soon. And I don't know that there is the level of interest that there is with men's sports either. I have to tell you, the comment section was really, really honest. And I'm going to show you some of these comments that were said, and then it kind of sets the tone for this whole thing. This first comment says, 30 years of existence and your league has never turned a profit. But pay us more, clown face. Ah, boy. Another one says, so they want a reduction in pay? I don't understand. I mean, a lot of people are very much aware of what's going on in the WNBA, and they don't like it. They're not happy about the attitudes, I think, of some of these people. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think that some of the attitudes of some of these players are, their egos are more out of control than some of the men. At least with some of the men, I can kind of conceptualize as to why their ego would be out of control and totally unchecked with the millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that they make and all the attention that they get. But with the women, I cannot understand how some of these women get up there and act the way they do with their egos flailing so hard. And I'm like, who do you think you are? And, you know, they kind of go against themselves, and then they go against each other. They eat their own. I mean, the way they've treated Caitlin Clark has been just absolutely outrageously bad.
And there's some words between the two players as Nas Hillman quickly.
And at the end of this altercation, you can clearly see Caitlin Clark say, "I'm not scared of you." And Howard continued to be provocative. And after Caitlin drew this offensive foul on Brittany Griner, it looked like she was pretty annoyed with her.
And Brittany moved.
And here she gets clearly fouled, and again they were chirping at her afterwards.
Shooting 31, they came in the season. Ryan Howard, Caitlin Clark finding a way to...
And here Brittany Griner picked up her 6th foul and had to sit for the rest of the game. You could clearly see what she was saying.
Talking about earlier today.
If you have the time and you haven't looked into it, like, look into the Caitlin Clark scandal, because they really have just made themselves out to be little brats. So it's no wonder that they're not turning a profit. Okay, honestly, because their attitudes stink. And this person writes, "Professional victims at it again." And that kind of plays right into my point about them being entitled little brats. They are acting, some of them are acting like victims, and they really are not victims. And that is, again, what's annoying me about this whole thing. Yeah, I just think there's a lot of changes still need to happen. So anyways, that's really all I have to say about it, guys. I mean, I don't know what the future is going to hold, and I do believe that it is going to get better with time, but it's just one of these things that you can't rush because there's just no way to rush it. I do watch WNBA games quite frequently with my wife, and it is quite fun. There are some games that are very, very entertaining, and those girls really go at it. There's been some fights, and there's some really terrific talent is out there as well. They really just need to get it together, honestly. That's the way I see it. They need to continue to do well. They need to continue to push forward. And stunts like this, like from the All Star weekend, it really doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't say, "Oh, wow, what a stunning and brave thing." But yeah, so let me know in the comments what you think about the WNBA. Do you think that they're a sinking ship? Do you think that they're going to last? Do you watch the WNBA? Is there any interest or people that you know that are interested in the WNBA? Or again, is this just something that's going to kind of fade away because they're not going to be able to hang on and manage this properly? So let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you next time.